Konnichiwa, ohayo gozaimasu, konbanwa, Global Chamber no Doug Brunke desu kedo. Welcome from wherever you're zooming in around the world. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. We're very pleased to have a very special program today with Consul General Akira Muto that will uncover the activity by the government of Japan and by the people of Japan to overcome the pandemic. I think you're going to find it very interesting. And we're also going to be hearing about some business opportunities in Japan that are coming out and spinning out of the pandemic as well. So making lemonade out of lemons, the Japanese are, and so you're going to hear a little bit more about that. I am Doug Brunke, the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. We are an organization that is everywhere in the world, so I'd like to thank in particular our chapter in Tokyo, where we have people watching and listening very early in the morning, 5 a.m. We also have people at Global Chamber in Australia who are watching. It's a little bit better for them, it's 6 a.m. And then of course here in the Americas, North and South America, thank you all for watching. It's a much more normal time for you in the middle of the day. I would like to next introduce one of our collaborators on this event, and that is Kelly Moore. He's the honorary consul for Japan in the state of Arizona. He has been uniquely honored by the government of Japan for his service to the government and the people of Japan. And so Kelly, we really appreciate all that you do for the state of Arizona, for the people of Arizona, and for the people and country of Japan, and I really appreciate all the collaboration that we've had over the years and on this program. Off to you, Kelly.
Well, thank you very much. You mentioned that it's a sort of easier time at 1 o'clock in America. I'd like to tell everyone in Arizona, it's right now 45 degrees centigrade and about 110 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's what we are living through right now. Again, as Doug said, my name is Kelly Moore, and I'm the Honorary Consul of Japan in Arizona. And first of all, I'd like to thank some of the organizations that have helped us with this. We have the Global Chamber, of course, the Japan Business Association of Arizona, the Phoenix Committee on Foreign Relations, and then last but not least, the Consular Corps of Arizona, of which I am a member. And just a couple of words on that, just that people might not know of it. The Consular Corps was created in 1961, and its main goal was to provide a forum for career and honorary consuls to exchange ideas about cultural, economic, and political diplomacy. And in today's Consular Corps, there are 35 countries represented, and they work to promote understanding and appreciation of each other's countries, cultures, and local communities. And then today we are very honored to have Consul General Akira Muto from the Consulate General of Japan in Los Angeles speak to us. And a couple of words, konnichiwa, a couple of words on Consul General Muto. He joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 1985. And I was looking through the number of posts that he has held and positions in his long 35-year career. And well, there are too many to list, but a couple that caught my eye are posts in the Japanese Embassy in Washington. He was director of the Russian Division European Affairs Bureau. And as I kind of read this, I asked Mr. Muto if he could speak Russian as well as English and Japanese, and he does, which I thought was very impressive. His most recent, he was Consul General in Boston, and his most recent posting is Consul General of Japan in Los Angeles, and he assumed that post in 2019. And I know that I'm looking forward myself, I know they're going to be informative, his remarks and insights today. And I will turn the program to him, and just as a last word, yoroshiku onegai itashimasu.
Okay, thank you, Kelly, for your kind introduction, and thank you for your work at Arizona. We very much appreciate your work as honorary consul there.
I'm honored to do it.
Today, I thank very much for Doug for having me here at your Global Chamber podium. I would like to talk today about the Japanese lessons learned, our responses to the COVID-19, and hope that would be useful to people in Arizona as we fight through the COVID-19. And also, I would like to shift our focus in how we should be building our businesses, including in Arizona, because there's lots of interesting things going on in terms of Japanese investment in the United States. So I would like to share with you that part as well. So let me start with the COVID-19, since we cannot get into business unless we overcome the COVID-19. Now, I always start with the numbers. Now, Japanese cases as of today is 32,000, as opposed to Arizona, which is around 166,000. In comparison, cases per 100,000 population, as you see in the slide, United States is around 1,300, Brazil 1,200, UK 460,000, 460, and Mexico 310, Korea 28, and Japan is 24.2. Regarding the death tolls numbers, could you change the slide, please? Our death tolls as of today is around 1,000. And in comparison, deaths per 100,000, UK is around 69, United States is around 45, Brazil 41, Mexico 35, and Japan 0.979. Now, I'm very worried with the situation in Arizona because when you see the number in comparison, the cases per 100,000, as I mentioned, could you go back to the slide? Yeah, Japan is 24, but I understand that in Arizona, the cases per 100,000 is over 2,000. So I hope you'll be able to overcome keep the situation under control as soon as possible. So with that, let me share with you our lessons learned. Now, Japanese approach is very different from other countries. It is very, very unique. Our strategy is to minimize the transmission while minimizing the social economic impacts. So we didn't lock down. We didn't rely on the testings, but we relied on the contact tracing, what we call the clusters-based approach. Now, our experts have found out that the 80% of those contracted do not pass on the virus, and 10% pass on the virus to one single person. And there's only few percent of those contracted who are the super spreaders, who pass on the virus to multiple people. So our approach is to focus on finding the common places of infections, which are the clusters, by contact tracing retrospectively the super spreaders. Now we call it retrospective contact tracing, different from the prospective contact tracing applied in Europe or United States, which focuses on the close contacts of the contracted for identifying the future potential cases through testings. By finding the clusters, it would enable to find most of the inspected within the clusters, and also would enable to find early signs of a community spread by identifying the unlinked cases outside the cluster. So the Japanese approach of focusing on the super spreading events through retrospective contact tracing is the more effective way of controlling the spreads. Now, we are ready to take on the role of the leadership for international pandemic disease controls. The Japanese government is willing to grant PPEs and provide capacity building to over 80 countries through the $1 billion budget. Also, Japanese government is proposing the what we call the patent pool system through the G7 summit process, which would enable the access to medical cure for all countries around the world under the transparent international framework. Now, we consider these efforts important since there will be no safe place in the world unless all countries in the world overcome the COVID-19. In this respect, I am very proud that the Japanese companies are also doing their part by contributing to the local communities. For example, in Arizona, Iris USA, which are producing the housewares normally, turned their line to producing the face masks and has already donated over 100,000 face masks to the local communities of Arizona. And I hope that we will be able to host the Olympic Games next July, celebrating a symbol of big victory by mankind over the COVID-19. Now, as we, so let me now change to the business side. Well, COVID-19 has reminded us again of the importance of the clean air. The level of the polluted air affects the cardiopulmonary health in general. So less polluted air is necessary where the viruses, especially where the virus is around. The polluted air weakens our lungs and hearts and strengthens the virus. Therefore, voices are heard around the world that we would need to flatten both the pandemic as well as the climate change curves. For these purposes, we would need robust policies and investment, and we would need to reshape the sectors of economy that has been difficult to decarbonate, including transportation. Now, in this respect, Japan is pursuing to build the hydrogen-powered society. Now, it is our goal to build the hydrogen-powered society by year 2030. Now, could you show the slide, please? Now, the Olympics will be a stepping stone for achieving this goal. And already in February, we have completed the world's largest hydrogen production facility in Fukushima, which is called FH2R, which will be providing fuel cell powers for the fuel cell vehicles, including buses, for the Olympics. And also will be fueling the Olympic villages. We are also building various hydrogen infrastructure in Japan now. For example, the utility scale hydrogen powered turbines are built in Japan, transitioning the old coal plants as well as natural gas plants to clean hydrogen. Next slide, please. We are also introducing various fuel cell vehicles, not only the passenger cars, but the buses and trucks. And also we are building the hydrogen fueling stations, expanding the networks. Also, we are introducing fuel cell power for homes and businesses. Now, my argument is to build a hydrogen power society, not only in Japan, but also in Southern California and Arizona. That will allow us to expand the hydrogen power society across the United States and even beyond. And Japanese companies are heavily investing in this area. The next slide, please. Last March, the Mitsubishi Hitachi Power System received a new contract from Intermountain Power Agency in Utah, transitioning the coal plants into hydrogen starting from 2025 with a mix of 30% hydrogen, but eventually raising the hydrogen component to 100% by 2045. I think this project will pave the way for building more hydrogen-powered turbine plants in Southern California, as well as I hope in Arizona. Now in June, the Mitsui company and the JBIC, Japan Bank for International Cooperation, announced a new investment, total amount of $48 million to the Fast Fuel Elements, California-based company, which is building the hydrogen gas stations in California. The idea is to expand the capacity for the hydrogen fuel stations, as well as to seek new applications for the as well as to build the hydrogen infrastructures for the fuel cell vehicles, as well as for seeking new applications for hydrogen fuel cells in such areas, rail and the ocean freight transportation in the future. Also, the next slide, please. We are helping the LA port to decarbonate. So we are replacing many old machines in the port, including the cranes, the tractor rigs, and the top handlers, from those using the oil to the new machines using hydrogen. So we hope we'll be able to decarbonate the port in the near future, which is a really big source of the carbonate gases in LA area. Now, you also in Arizona have a company called Nikola Corporation, which is next slide, please. Which is engaged in the hydrogen businesses. Oh yeah, this is the one. Producing the fuel cell vehicles, building the hydrogen fuel stations, and even trains. So we look forward to working with Nikola Corporation towards building hydrogen power society in Arizona. Thank you.
Fantastic. Great information. I'm going to now open up the floor to questions. I have questions already to ask, and so what I would suggest to our viewers is please put your questions in the Q&A area, and we'll get to those as we go along. We have something like about 30 minutes where we can ask questions. I also want to, before we get into that, recognize two of the many people on this call. First of all, Yasuke Kuroda talks a little bit about the relationship between California and Arizona. Today is his second to last day living in Los Angeles. He's a sushi chef in Los Angeles at a very famous place. I'm not sure if I should say the name, so I'll just leave it as a very famous place. And he's packing up tomorrow and moving to Arizona to start our ramen shop. And so there's two really good things about that. One is we definitely are seeing migration from California to Arizona and making sure that the growth happens. And secondly, we really need a good ramen shop. So Yasuke-san, I really appreciate your move and appreciate you attending today. I'd also like to recognize Todd Westra of my favorite Japanese word. I don't know why, but mokuteki. Mokuteki is, for some reason, I always like that word, and I like to say that word. It means, you know, purpose, and he's used it in his business as a visionary coaching type of a business. He's actually in the mountains of Utah. So Todd, really appreciate you joining us today. So Consul General, let's start with the questions as they come in from our audience. I've actually have lived in Japan and used to call on the car companies a long time ago, 20 plus years ago. And at that time, hydrogen was a dream. And Nissan in particular was maybe more advanced than any of the car companies in terms of its development of hydrogen cells. You know, as a chemical engineer, it was always a very attractive thing, right? Because you burn hydrogen and it turns into hydrogen and water, or hydrogen and oxygen, which is water. So having something burn and turn into water is a very nice thing. However, hydrogen is a little dangerous because you've got to pack it in under high pressure. And so I'm wondering how Japan and how the Japanese industry has made this decision where it's always been a fantastic dream to have a real clean energy, and how have they migrated over these last 2 decades to now decide that this is the right future for home energy, for regional energy, for transportation, for the Port of LA, for all these different applications? How has that transpired?
Yeah, you know, you mentioned about the risks, but you know, Japanese business are so much security concerned, security aware. So if they say they can do it, I think there's no other better way in terms of ensuring the security. So I'm not very much concerned about the security side.
Okay, so you're saying that they have that settled. So for instance, in buses as an example, or hopefully there'll be a Shinkansen someday with hydrogen power, it'll be located well inside and very well protected from damage. And so I'm with you. I think if they've moved forward, then they must have solved all of those issues. And so I'm very excited to hear that, including the Port of LA and some of the applications you talked about in Arizona. We'll have questions about both the hydrogen and the COVID-19. And so I mentioned earlier that Global Chamber Australia is attending this call. So thank you, Kirsty. I see your question there coming in from Melbourne, Australia. So a little bit after 6 in the morning. Kirsty Wilkinson has a company that specializes in helping retail companies move their businesses into Japan. She's lived in Japan, and so she's very knowledgeable, and we really appreciate her and her capabilities. She has a question about COVID-19. She's wondering, Japan has had a large increase in COVID-19 cases more recently. How much is testing being done, and could that be one of the reasons why there are more cases being reported?
Yes, the cases, we have kept the, as I mentioned, the numbers very low, but still, as we opened up the economy, especially the night businesses, we are seeing the rising numbers these days. But that is not compared to the rising numbers that we saw in early April. In terms of other elements that we are taking into consideration, such as the capacity of medical system, as well as the positivity rates and other elements. So that's the reason why the government is not reintroducing the emergency declarations to freeze the economic activities, restrain the economic activities. I think, although there are some numbers growing, people are pretty confident that they are under control. And we've been telling, our experts have been telling that there's no way that you get rid of the virus. You have to, we need to live with it. So we have to find ways how to keep up with the virus under control. So in that respect, we chose the way not to shut down the economy, because every time you see the rise of the cases and then you shut down the economy, that wouldn't be sustainable. You have to keep the virus cases under control. At the same time, keeping the economic activities ongoing. So you will be, rather than you see the sharp increase and shut down the economy, you would need to get adapted to controlling the situation with mild waves, growing and then slowing down, and then growing once again. So it's kind of the long waves, small or large, depends on how people behave. So that's why you need to keep masks on and abide by the rules. And that will keep the growing ratio very mild. And once you see the cases numbers coming down once again, you reopen it, relax the economic activities. And that's that way we go on and on for some time. That's a kind of new world after the COVID. So there's no way that you get rid of 100% the virus.
Thank you, Consul General. I was reading in the Japan Times a few weeks ago about the long history of using masks in Japan. It dates back into the 1800s and maybe even earlier, that it's somewhat traditional. And certainly all of us who have been to Japan know that people wear masks in general, even before this. I presume that that's been a key part of the success. I wonder if you could just tell us, what is the situation with businesses there in Tokyo? Are restaurants open? Are retail stores open? And how does that contrast with the small places like Takayama or places away from the main line? What does business and what does life look like?
Before that, let me also answer. I think you give me a right question.
A couple things there.
I didn't answer the question was asked before regarding the testings. So let me answer to those questions. The masks and the hygienic consciousness on the part of Japanese people in general helped us in coping with the COVID-19. But that is, my point is that is not the only reasons. The reasons are more strategic, of cluster-based approach, of contact tracing. Now, in the early stages of our responses, because of limited capacity, we were not able to do testings as much as we hoped to. So we relied more on the contact tracing. I think our conclusion at this point is that we need to do both, testing as well as the contact tracing. And so today, taking into account our experts' advices, the government has now encouraged to increase the testings. But testing is only part of the whole effort that you would be required. The very kind of painstaking works of contact tracing through myriads of interviewing is very important. So you should not dismiss this part of the efforts in containing the cases. It would require so many resources when you interview people and make a very nuanced judgments of whether these guys are super spreaders or not. So you have to trace back instead of tracing forward. As I mentioned, tracing forward means prospective contact tracing, but tracing backwards means where this guy's patients came from. You need to go through and interview so many people, but as you interview these people, you will find the common places of infections, which is a cluster. So if you see the numbers rising, you would need to suspect that there should be the clusters around. And the best way of controlling the spread is go after the clusters. Once you find the clusters, you close down the clusters instead of closing down all the economy. Closing down the very limited places is more effective. So that's why we didn't lock down as a whole. We locked down the clusters, but the economy kept on going. So going back to your question, how things look like in Japan, it isn't still it isn't what we used to be. The recovery is very slow, and I think it would take time. And people are saying that some people say that for the structural changes of the economy, it will require some more time. And we wouldn't be returning to the level of activities prior to the pandemic, even in 2022. So this is going to be a long process. But again, I would like to mention lastly on your question is that since we didn't lock down the economy, the negative impacts we hope would be less in the long run than that of those countries where the lockdown has been introduced. For example, in Europe, they're expecting 60 million unemployed. The United States, I think in April, you had 23 million unemployed. In Japan, in June, we had 1.78 million unemployed. So that tells how what is the magnitude of negative impact on the economy.
See, that makes sense. One of the impacts certainly is work from home all around the world. One of the initiatives by the Japanese government has been getting women into the workforce. And so could you just talk a little bit about that initiative by the Japanese government? How is that going, bringing women in to the workforce? And then how does work from home implications, does it have an implication on that initiative and for business overall in Japan?
Oh yes, this has been one of the highest priorities for the Abe administration in creating a society in which all women shine. So in the past 7 years of his administration, 3.3 million women joined the workforces, which is the largest growth of the female workforces among the G7 countries. Also, we are seeing in the past 7 years, the numbers of female board members, as well as the executive officers, have increased by 3 times. And the administration is going to further promote the policy to heighten the empowerment of the women. So I think all this would contribute to the revitalization of the Japanese economy.
If I can jump in just for a second, I see a question on maybe a sort of more individual basis. It's one, I'm involved with education. I've had this in question a number of times, but someone wrote here that returning foreign residents to return to Japan. My son is a student at a university in Japan, and can you offer any insight on the process for students to return? Mm-hmm. Apparently he came home for spring break and has not been able to go back.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, as you know, the situations in Japan are stabilizing. The government has started to introduce the phased measures for resuming the cross-border travel. Now, we would need to pick the countries from where the people are traveling, because you know, we don't want to import the we don't want to see the imported transmissions once we start lifting the border measures. So we would need to pick some countries. Now, currently, our borders are closed for people traveling from more than 140 countries, including the United States. So now, when we look at what countries are getting stabilized, I think we are now focusing on the Southeastern Asian countries, starting from Thailand and Vietnam. Now we are introducing the resident trucks as well as the business trucks. The resident trucks are for those people going to stay in Japan long as residents, including the re-entry of the former residents in Japan. So they would need to take additional quarantine measures. But now we are, you know, gradually and steadily starting to open up the border measures for long stay travelers. That's called the resident truck. Now, and that for Thailand and Vietnam, that will be introduced in July this month, but by the end of July, so soon. Now, we're also working on the business trucks for those businessmen coming to Japan for short stays. You know, currently, because of the self-quarantine restrictions of 14 days, you know, the companies cannot send their businessmen for short stay in Japan because they need to stay at the hotel for 14 days. They cannot do the businesses in Japan. So now the business track allows those businessmen for the short stay in Japan, intended for short stay in Japan, to engage in business with certifications that they're just, go into the business offices and the limited places and just commuting between the places of stay and the business offices. So that is starting to take place. Well, we are working on it, negotiating with the Thailand, Vietnam on how to realize the business tracks. But apart from Thailand and Vietnam, we are now seeing if we can, include other countries to these, phased measures of reopening the cross-border travels for the rest of the 8 countries for the ASEAN, as well as South Korea, Taiwan, China, Mongolia, and Hong Kong, and Macau. As to the US and European citizens hoping to do business in Japan, and whether we are able to, apply the residence track as well as the business track for those foreign people coming from Europe and the United States. We would still need to see how situations stabilize in respective country. And our situation stabilizes, we would be able to consider, welcoming business people from these countries as well. But it might take some time. Now, regarding the students, unless those measures are lifted, unfortunately, they would not be able to enter Japan. However, our universities and colleges are open for applications. And in fact, many colleges and universities are getting record high numbers of applications these days, probably because of the effects of the pandemic in Europe as well as in the United States. So we are getting so many applications for Asian countries. Now the background for this is that our demographic crisis since 2011 has led immigration offices to relax the immigration measures, to open up the country for the international residents as well as the international students. So prior to the pandemic, 2015 and 2019 period, the the international residents in Japan increased by 31% from 2 to 31%. Especially the international students rose by 40% from 250,000 to 350,000. Most of the, I'll say 30% of those international students who graduated in 2018, 2019 got jobs in Japan. And the other 30% continued education in Japan. So please do apply for the colleges in Japan. And Japanese government scholarship is also open for the application for spring and next autumn until August 25th. So you have some time for the application. My point is that although the border measures are lifted, students will not be able to enter physically to Japan. But meanwhile, don't give up applying for the colleges and universities. you can prepare for those applications. And once the border measures are lifted, you are all welcome to come over to Japan.
Whatever.
Kelly, did that answer your question, and did you have a
I think
follow-up?
so, yes,
Okay, great. Thank you, Consul General. We have more questions, so thank you all for asking. Keep the questions coming in. If we don't get to your question, we'll handle it offline, but I think we should be able to handle all the ones that we have. Let's see. So we have a kind of a compound question from Bill. In the US, chronic diseases such as obesity, diabetes, and high blood pressure make individuals at risk for COVID-19. Is the data showing this to be true as well in Japan? And are there other demographic considerations like age, gender, lifestyle that are unique to Japan and COVID-19? Are there things that we can learn from that as well?
I think I can agree with that for those patients who have the underlying diseases, tends to get worse when they are contracted the coronavirus. So it's very important that the medical system puts priority on these patients with underlying diseases.
Got it. Okay. We have a question from Paula, and Paula, for your information and for everyone's information, we do have the contents of the PowerPoint presentation, and we will make it available to everyone who's on this call. So you'll receive, if you registered with an email, you'll receive the information afterwards. So good news on that. You're asking if you're in Arizona, and you're asking if the Consul General could convince the governor of Arizona to mandate mask wearing. I'm not sure, Consul General, you have tremendous power. I'm not sure you have the power to do that, but I'm wondering, is mask wearing mandated in Japan? And do you think that mandating it in the US would help?
No, we don't mandate. The government doesn't have the mandatory powers to introduce restrictions on people. The national legislation does not allow our people, the government to do so. So all the government is doing is asking for people's cooperation.
I see.
And
how is that working? Are generally, close to 100% of the people doing it? And how would you contrast it with what you see in California, which is somewhat sporadic in its usage?
Yes, no, it's kind of not understandable. When things are related to life and death, whether that's mandatory or voluntary, I think you should be. You should be, putting mask on you for the sake of helping other people in general. So that's our culture, always think of others. That's how we are taught and educated from the childhood. Don't be selfish. Do think of others. Always think of what your behaviors would affect other people. So just not putting masks in under these situations, for us Japanese are very not understandable, because it is tantamount saying that I don't care what you suffer from. That's not the way people live.
I agree. I totally agree. It's a crazy thinking. Thank you. We have a question about the hydrogen projects, and it relates to public-private partnerships. Considering how the way you described it, it sounded like the government along with private entities were pulling things together in Southern California, probably in Japan as well. And so how did the public-private partnerships around hydrogen infrastructure in California come about? And what's your thought about what's needed from the government partners to grow hydrogen infrastructure in places like Arizona as well?
It's a matter of leadership. We don't, as far as I understand that, I'm aware of, there's no kind of private government partnership for introducing investment in Southern California. All we have is the cabinet decision at the level of the national government to achieve the hydrogen power by 2035. And the private sector is acting on that basis. So I didn't, I didn't exert my influence on the Mitsubishi power system to invest in Utah, nor did I exert my influence on Mitsubishi, Mitsui or the JBIC to make additional investment for the first element fuel. I just knew belatedly. So they are acting on their initiatives because they believe in, they believe that that is the future for the world economy.
Here's a question kind of related to that, if I may. Japan's future and global promotion of hydrogen power leaping over further development in solar wind energy and the balance between the two types of energy. And also included that utility scale battery storage. So how was all of that balanced out, I wonder?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Yes, So as Japan's future and global promotion of hydrogen power leaping over further development of solar wind energy. So is more focus being put on hydrogen than solar and wind, and also battery storage as well connected with those?
Battery, you would need the battery storage's capability to be increased in parallel with expanding the hydrogen infrastructure. But
what about solar and wind?
Solar and wind, I think we are getting close to conclusion that they are much expensive than the hydrogen.
That's a simple answer, yeah.
Okay, very good. We're coming to the end, so we aren't going to get to all the questions. We've gotten to most of them. If you have any additional questions, we are going to record the ones that are in the Q&A. So if you want to list them there, that's great, or send them to info@globalchamber.org and we'll handle them offline. We are coming to the end, so I want to give Consul General Muto an opportunity to talk about two more things and then we'll close. Number one being the Olympics. 2020 Olympics. I'm a tremendous Olympics fan. I've been to the Olympics before and I was really counting on going this year. I want to know, when should I book my flight to Tokyo next year? What's your suggestion on that? And then if you could just maybe give us a few final comments in summary for both the COVID situation and the hydrogen situation.
Okay. Regarding the Olympics, the good news is that they have now the schedules as well as the places where the Olympics will be held. So they just slided the schedules 1 year later. So the July the 23rd will be the opening. And all the tickets that you may have bought are valid because the games are held just 1 year later. The same date, same place. So that's been worked out already. Just a week ago, the Japanese Tokyo Olympic Committee held an event showcasing the support for the sportsmen around the world. Also on that same date, the IOC unveiled the Stronger Together campaign, the aim of which is to emphasize the importance of the solidarity and unity during difficult times, acknowledging the power of sports to bring people together. So as I mentioned, I hope that when we hold the Olympic Games next year, it will be a symbol of celebration of our victory over the COVID-19. Not only Japanese, but victory of by the mankind over the COVID-19.
That is our hope, isn't it? Will you be at the Olympics?
I don't think so. I think I'll be busy sending people from here to Japan.
Okay. So for everyone going, I'm definitely going. So definitely check in. I'd love to visit with you while we're in Tokyo and see my old neighborhoods and things like that. So Consul General Muto, we really appreciate what you shared with us today and taking the time. We will be disseminating this information and the additional questions within the Global Chamber blog, and it's also been recorded. So we really appreciate you sharing. And for those of you who are watching, we'll have more information regarding this coming up in the following week or two. Kelly Moore, you're amazing. We really appreciate your collaboration. We appreciate all that you do. And thank you so much for participating from home today as well. And thanks for all that you do.
Well, there's a lot of people involved in putting this together, and I want to thank everybody.
All the different groups, including Beverly Wasachek and the Phoenix Committee on Foreign Relations, the Arizona Consular Corps, and all the other organizations that have been part of this. We really appreciate it. One thing just to leave you with as we're winding down, Global Chamber we're a virtual chamber of commerce all over the world, and tomorrow we have an event that's free that relates to Japan. And so this is an event that we do quite frequently. It's a global dining event. It's virtual dining. So you haven't had quite the Zoom experience until you've had a Japanese dinner with a bunch of friends. So we have at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern time in the United States. We're all going out and getting a Japanese meal, and we're eating it together. And I might say that in Tokyo, it'll be 9 a.m. in the morning, and we have members of Global Chamber from Tokyo who will be joining us. And then at 10 a.m. in Australia. So Kirsty, who I mentioned earlier, will be joining us probably with a green tea and maybe a little bit of a Japanese sweet. So if you'd like a little bit more Japanese in your week, please join us tomorrow. Go to globalchamber.org, go to our event page and sign up and join us for dinner in the United States and Latin America, or morning coffee and snack in Japan or in Asia. Again, thank you to Kelly. Thank you, Consul General. Thank you to your entire team at the consulate there in Los Angeles. All of you have just been wonderful to work with, and we'll work with you again at another time. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for having me. I hope our lesson. And good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too. Take care.
Take care. You too. Thank you.